all want the perfect campsite every time we pitch our tent. An amazing view, a nice shade tree, safe surroundings, a secluded spot so you can poop in the woods without worrying whether anyone is going to wander past, normal stuff. But finding the perfect site and then pitching your tent safely is sometimes easier said than done. Fortunately, there are ways to locate just what you want or need, no matter where you find yourself. So here's how to find the perfect spot that leaves no trace and set up a winning campsite when you're headed deep into the backcountry. When it comes to picking the ideal spot to pitch your tent or hang your hammock, safety is key. So before you drop your bag in the first semi-clear spot of ground you see, look around to make sure you're not putting yourself in harm's way. But let's start with the types of campsites. There are two main ones when it comes to backpacking: designated and wilderness or undeveloped. Designated campsites often feature cleared areas that volunteers, conservation groups, or rangers have developed specifically for backpackers. These can sometimes just be a clearing, but occasionally they'll have a fire ring or a pit, maybe a post for hanging your pack, possibly even a picnic table. These sites are usually well marked on the map and on the trail. Undeveloped sites or true wilderness sites, on the other hand, are rarely marked on a map or trail and can vary wildly in appearance. Some sites you come across may resemble developed campsites in that they look like cleared areas purpose-built for camping. That's likely because lots of people have camped there, while others end up being wherever you manage to find a flat spot. We'll talk about both kinds and what to look for in each to keep you safe and leave no trace. When backcountry camping in wilderness areas where there may or may not be developed and designated campsites, to find the best places to call it a night, ask around at local gear shops or at ranger stations to discover where the best campsites are hidden. Because listen, locals always have the inside scoop. If there are designated sites and you're allowed to pick your own, don't drop your gear at the first one you pass. Check out several farther down the trail to see if one just has that magic about it. The perfect shade tree, an epic view, logs arranged as seats around a fire pit, access to easy water. And if you have the rare opportunity to book a specific backcountry site online, like at some state parks, look at photos on the booking platform so you can take a peek at what kind of sites are available. This is especially handy when hammock camping and you need to know if there are enough large trees from which to hang your bed. Of course, views aren't everything. There's safety to consider too. So whether you're staying in a developed or undeveloped site, check for a few dangers and warning signs before you set up camp. For starters, look for widowmakers, as in don't pitch your tent directly under dead tree limbs or near dead trees that could topple. If the wind picks up or there's an unexpected storm in the middle of the night, the last thing you want is a branch or a whole tree falling on your tent. Second, hang your hammock from sturdy trees. If you're hammock camping, that is. Don't hang it on any trees smaller than 15 inches wide or that aren't alive and healthy. Any smaller and you could damage the tree. And if the tree is dead, it could topple over on you. I feel like we just talked about this. Look for flood hazards too. Rain can cause flooding whether water is falling from the sky directly overhead or way upstream somewhere. So no matter the forecast, don't pitch your tent in a low spot where water can collect or too close to a stream bed that could swell and rise if there's a storm. It's also handy to look for wind breaks. Take advantage of large boulders or hills that can function to block the wind so that A, you're not listening to your tent nylon snap all night long, and B, it'll help protect your tent from folding in half on extremely windy adventures. Just don't camp too close to cliffs or hills that might be prone to rock slides. And don't forget about animals. We're gonna say it again. Always properly store food for the region you're in and the wildlife found there. For example, use a bear safe or a locker to store your food if bears or even wily rodents can be found nearby. Especially when looking for campsites in wilderness areas, keep a few pointers in mind. Pitch your tent out of sight of trails and at least 200 feet away from natural water sources. Some parks dictate more specific distances from trails, so check before you head out. If there are already tents pitched nearby, give them space. They probably came out here to enjoy the peace of nature just like you, so don't camp right next door. Be patient and start looking for campsites early if you're unfamiliar with the area. There's really little worse than waiting until dinner time to start scoping for a site and not finding one until 2 hours later when you're tired and hangry. A good wilderness site can occasionally be tricky to find. Once you've found a spot that looks solid from a safety perspective, the next most important thing is to set up a campsite that leaves no trace. We've already talked about this in some detail, but when it comes to campsites, there are a few extra things to consider. We've mentioned looking for areas that feature durable natural surfaces like packed dirt, sand, smooth rock, or hardy grasses, not areas with wildflowers, tall prairie grasses, or other delicate flora. And whatever you do, never camp on cryptobiotic soil. Then there's the beloved campfire. And first things first here, only build a fire if, one, you're allowed where you're backpacking. Fire bans are increasingly common across the country. Two, you feel confident in your abilities to build and extinguish the fire safely. And three, there are sufficient fire building materials nearby that you can collect responsibly. Remember the leave no trace principle, dead and downed wood only, no bigger around than your wrist. If you meet all that criteria, have at it. But clear the ground of dry grass, leaves, etc. within about a 3-foot radius of the fire, have plenty of water on standby for extinguishing, and consider collecting wood from beyond the immediate vicinity of your campsite. Finally, don't forget to bring something in which to dispose of your garbage. A small trash bag or gallon zip-top bag will do the trick nicely and help keep camp tidy. And of course, there's the bathroom. Remember, if there isn't a drop toilet nearby, pick a spot at least 100 feet away from your campsite, if at all possible, to designate as your bathroom area. Use your cat hole shovel or ultralight spade to dig a hole 6 to 8 inches deep, go in the hole, and cover it all up thoroughly when you're finished, like a cat does. Get it? And yes, while it's colloquially known as a poop shovel, no poop should actually ever touch the shovel. It's strictly for digging holes in the dirt and covering up those holes again. So enjoy the search for the perfect campsite, camp smart out there, and wander on. You know, some people name their poop shovels. Here's one, this one's my favorite. I met someone once who named theirs Doug. That's good, right? It's a good one. I like that one. My good friend, hers is named Raoul the Traoul. So clever, right? I wish I would have thought of it. I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed and embarrassed to say that my poop shovel does not have a name. I'm open to suggestions. Throw them out there, and we'll get that thing named.